This is the new Stereotype. Welcome to K.R.E.A.T.E TV. Good morning, gentlemen. Welcome to K.R.E.A.T.E TV. It's so great to have you here today. To all of you out there who probably have never seen me before on K.R.E.A.T TV, I'm Kenny Thacker. I'm creator of K.R.E.A.T TV, and I'm so happy and blessed to have the gentleman from the new Stereotype in the house tonight in the K.R.E.A.T studio. So welcome.
Thank you so much.
Welcome so much. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to have you tell each and every one of you, just going down the line, telling everyone your name and what do you do.
Good morning. My name is Shola Bashran, well, Shola for short. Born and raised in New York. I'm a photographer by passion and sales specialist at Hermes of Paris in New York City. My profession, Monday through Friday, and happy to be here.
Good morning, my name is Aaron Robinson. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and professionally I am a conductor for New York City Transit. And I'm happy as well to be here.
I'm Marquelle Turner-Gilchrist. I'm from Johnsonville, North Carolina. Very small rural town, but I live in Harlem now, and I am an assistant buyer for a luxury fashion company here in New York City.
So Marquelle, I'm going to have this first question for you.
Okay.
Can you tell me, when did you get started doing the new Stereotype and why?
For sure. So essentially the new Stereotype was created after spending the first quarter of last year in Europe. And whenever I came back at the end of April, I became kind of fixated on what was taking place in the United States from a cultural perspective, economically, socially, and I spent so many hours watching YouTube videos kind of catching up to say, and trying to figure out what had taken place in the country while I was away. And shortly after, a few months later, I moved to New York City, and as the racial climate continued to grow, I wanted to develop a concept or some level of activism that made sense to me, and the new Stereotype was basically born from me finding a way to funnel my passion as well as do something with substance.
Well, it's always good to feel the passion, right?
Absolutely.
What's life without it?
Nothing.
Exactly, right?
Suicide.
Suicide. Shola, so this question is directed towards you. What would you be doing right now if you weren't doing what you're doing?
The way I see it is, you only have one life to live, and I'm living this life the only way that I can see myself doing just that. So, yeah, I can't see myself doing anything else, and yeah.
Amazing. So Marquelle, I'm gonna jump over to you.
Yes.
Why did you choose to use fashion as a foundation for the new Stereotype?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier and kind of talked about this, that it's important for me to do something that is funneled through passion. Mm-hmm. And I've kind of been involved with fashion since high school. Like, I don't know if you remember those high school superlatives. It was like best, most likely to be famous. So I was like best dressed for my time. So I had always kind of had a love or a passion, for some type of style. Mm-hmm. And so I think that activism and anything that you like to do can take several shapes, and there are those forms of activism where it's very bold, where you climb up and take a flag down.
Yes.
And I love that idea, but it wasn't authentic to who I was as a person. There's an activism where you create a long status, or you march on Wall Street, or you do some other things, and I just truly want to do something that was true to who I was as a person, so that whenever I produced the content or whatever the content was shared, that it was authentic. And I think that we were able to do that in the best way we could.
When you came up with the new Stereotype, was there any non-believers that said, like, why are you doing this? You know, because every great movement has more detesters than supporters, right? So like, when you were coming up with this, was there any non-believers that said that to you?
To be honest with you, I'm happy to say that when I initially kind of shared the idea, the response was positive. All of the reception was positive. There were initially going to be 11 guys in the group, and it ended up being 8. But the reason why they weren't included was because there were some things that came up, unforeseen circumstances where they couldn't commit to the shoot. But I would say that I started to see kind of the opposition after the project was released. But everyone that I kind of spoke with about was on board. And I think that what was going on in the country, what's still going on in this country today, it was so timely and it was so relevant that people were receptive because they saw the end result being something positive.
Mm-hmm. What was that opposition?
Well, you know, I would say it varies. Whenever I first released, the first thing that I did personally, for me, I was released a photo on Facebook, and there were maybe like 20 comments, and the 21st comment was, well, why is no one wearing socks? And why are the pants so tight? And why? So those type of oppositions. So more so from that perspective. And then after we released the article on Blavity, there were several different opinions. I remember one in particular that said, well, Martin Luther King was shot wearing a suit. So there's been all types of opposition about whether we're creating new stereotypes, which we can address, or if this is something that if we're assimilating to Western culture. So there's been all types of feedback, but overall it has been exceedingly positive. So.
What's the biggest misconception people have about TNS?
Well, to me, I think people really truly do believe that we think that the only way to be respected is by dressing up in a suit, by having your pants up, or not always wearing a tie, always being dressed to the T. Like Marquelle on a regular, you might see him in a t-shirt and some sneakers. You don't want to see what I look like on my days off.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, to me, it's we're not creating.
I must confess, I've never seen that.
See, we're not here creating the standard, we're not creating a standard for how you should dress, how you should be perceived. We're creating an alternative view, on how we can be seen. So I think that's the main one. Right? That's the main one that we've been getting on online, right? Yeah. Okay.
Aaron, what do you think the misconception is about the movement?
So one of the misconceptions from the new stereotype was that a suit is supposed to stop a bullet, and that's really not. Again, what Shola's saying. We know that a suit cannot stop a bullet. As Marquelle stated earlier, Martin Luther King was killed in a suit. The idea is to take pride in how you look, to present yourself in a certain type of way. Unfortunately, there are people who make judgments on us just based on how we look. So, if you're trying to go for a job interview or something like that, you don't know how to tie a tie, you don't know how to wear a suit, you don't know how a suit should fit you. These are things that people are already going to mark against you before you open your mouth, before they see your credentials, before they know who you are as a person. They're going to see you first. So, you have to have some type of dignity about how you look and present yourself.
Exactly. Really like the part you said about the dignity. So there's this theory, and you guys probably saw this question like, what is he talking about? But there's this theory called the 12 by 12 by 12 theory, in which you're judged from 12 feet away. You're judged from the first 12 inches from your head down to your chest. Then you're judged by the first 12 words that come out of your mouth, right? This is a unconscious prejudice that everyone has most of the time. How does the new stereotype dismiss this unconscious prejudice?
I think that one of the ways that we dismiss that is by offering people the notion to know that there are layers within everyone's life, of course. And going back to Aaron's statement earlier, I believe that it's important to identify with several different types. And again, as Shola said, this is not the one standard, this is not the one way, there are several ways. And I think by people kind of seeing these images, and I posted on Instagram recently that fashion is the vessel, but the message is celebrating Black life. So it's the idea of kind of understanding beyond the pictures, understanding beyond the first 12 words, beyond the first 12 feet, and kind of, thinking about the dialogue, or creating dialogue and asking those questions so that you can make better judgments, or not even judgments, but better decisions, or better ways of understanding someone's character flaws and characteristics. And I think that's one of the ways that we do that. And I think the Blavity piece that's associated with the photos and the video that we're going to be doing coming up soon will allow people to kind of better understand that, or better kind of understand the movement, because now it's not just pictures. There are words, there's explanations, there are stories behind each and every person's life, and that's one of the ways that we're trying to dispel that.
I would say is that the 12 by 12 by 12, it sounds like a box. That sounds like dimensions for a box, and you really can't put anybody into that box. You can't put anybody into literally that box. Just you'll see me one day, you'll see me in sweats, and then one day you'll see me in a suit. Either day I could be listening to Florence and the Machine, Shake It Off, or I could be listening to
Future, Drake.
Future, Drake.
Oh,
no, not
Drake.
Drake. But you know,
Oh,
the
man.
point is, I could be listening to anything, you know. So you know, just based on how you see me, you know, and that's the beauty of what Marquelle is trying to do here. It's just trying to show diversity. You know, we are all diverse individuals, and you know, like you said, once we get the video out, you'll see that we are all different. You know, we may all dress alike, but we may all have similar style, but we are all individuals. You know, so get to know the individual before you try to establish any type of judgments.
Exactly, but that's also where the problem lies with just the way the world in general views black men with the stereotype.
For sure.
You know, and I think this is where you guys are like a super breath of fresh air. You know, because it's not about it's more about the character of the individual.
Yes.
You know, and people need to really respect that at the end of the day, and that gets lost.
Yes.
It gets lost in translation by the high volume of crap TV that's out there. Not great TV, but there is like a few amazing common denominators that you guys have in common. You're black, you're smart, you're intelligent, you definitely know a lot about style. But how, due to the fact that you guys come from so many different backgrounds, how do you incorporate your culture into the new stereotype?
Yes. So again, as I mentioned earlier, one of the important parts of this project is the content that comes along with the photos. And I'm from the South, and I think the South is known for Southern hospitality. So opening doors, you know, being very hospitable. And so one of the things I wanted to do when putting out these pictures was to associate the pictures with adjectives that I thought were positive adjectives that are associated with black men. So being generous, so being considerate, so being spiritual. And those are all key elements, a part of the Southern culture, to have a heavy spiritual background, to be polite, and to be generous, to always put others before you. So that was one of the ways I wanted to incorporate my Southern heritage into this project.
Well, I'm kind of like the city boy with country roots. You know, my parents are from North Carolina. You know, small St. Paul's, Robeson County. You know, probably never heard of it, but so you know,
is it next to Charlotte?
Nowhere near close to Charlotte. But so you know, New York. I feel like anyone who lives in New York or is born in New York, you know, you just get that hustle and bustle. You know, you have to fight with people to hail a yellow cab. You have to run for the train. You know, you jaywalking, so you putting your life on the line. You know, literally every day, or you live in New York. But then, you know, to kind of thwart that, my parents, you know, were from a small town where, you know, I could remember my grandmother sitting on the porch, and you know, she's just waving at everybody that drives by, and I'm like, "Oh, grandma, hey, who's that?" And she's like, "Oh, I don't know, I'm just waving." So you know, I start waving too. Hey, you know, so you know, that kind of I feel like, you know, that gives me kind of an interesting, you know, duality, where, you know, I'm a New Yorker at heart, but you know, I'm like a Southern type of gentleman, you know, also. So.
Yeah, I remember always going back to Nigeria, and there was a time of year, it's called Ileya, or Thanksgiving, and essentially what would happen is people amongst the village or amongst the neighborhood would give thanks or offerings to whatever entity that they believed in. I feel like we all have gifts. I'm employing my photography, that's my gift, to give thanks to a bigger cause, a higher cause, and that's how I feel I bring my culture to the play when it comes to TNS.
Marquelle, I want you to tell me what these two great gentlemen bring to the team. Then after that, I want you guys to tell me what, you know, the boss brings to the new stereotype. So you can start with Aaron, and then Shola.
Be nice,
What they bring to the
Be nice.
What do they contribute to the movement?
I and all the guys weren't able to be here because of the schedule, but I think everyone brings something very special to the shoot that makes it so dynamic. And if you think about the main photo where we're all sitting on the bench and we're kind of in a color block, I think that the way that everyone positioned themselves and the color that they chose, whether it was a blue, whether it was a green, was a way that only they could do it. And I remember I wrote one of my first posts about this was for a blog called Mimi Cute Lips. It was a woman based out of DC who has a blog, and I remember talking about Aaron's pink double-breasted suit. Like I could not have done that. Here I am talking about men embracing color. I could do that, but it takes a certain personality and a certain boldness to be able to do that and to do it confidently. And one of the things I used to do in one of my previous jobs at a university was kind of teach guys how to be confident, because that's the best accessory. It never goes out of style, it never goes out of season. It's always on trend. And so I think that he brings a certain boldness to the shoot that creates this contrast, and the photo piques people's interest because of the color. And I was, whenever I saw it, he was one of the first people to arrive. I was blown away. So I'm here in blue and white. I was blown away. So I think that boldness is what Aaron brings to the shoot. It's unapologetically him, and I can appreciate that. Shola brings Shola brings a dedication and passion to this project that impresses me. I mean, we just did the women's shoot last Saturday, and it was his birthday. But he did the women's shoot. I'm just blown away by his commitment to the project and his passion for it, because I wanted people in this project who truly felt that it was important to do it. And it wasn't just to get a few extra Instagram followers or a few extra likes, but because there was a notion behind this that could create conversation that would ultimately create some type of change. So that's what I think that both of them bring to the shoot. And I'm grateful to them, to Terrell, to Kamoy, to Russ, to DeAndre, to Christian, to Andreas, to Brandon, to everyone who's a part of the shoot, because everyone brings something very special. And Bismarck as well, yes. Who came from Canada. He flew down from Toronto to be a part of the shoot.
Wow,
That was huge. Commitment. So everyone brings something great.
Well, I've known Marquelle since high school. You know, we weren't necessarily friends in high school. I met him in high school. So you know, just to go to see him in high school with army fatigues. He wasn't really oversized, but you know the baggy.
Yeah.
You know, to know the area that he comes from in North Carolina, and to see, I guess what is this, like 10 years later, you know, to see the guy who he's grown into. Marquelle is someone who I've had conversations with that has inspired me to really, you know, go on a path to where I want to go, to be you know, to be happy and fulfilled in whatever it is that I'm doing in my life.
Exactly.
So, you know, I knew Marquelle before he went to study abroad, and you know, just having conversations with him and the drive and determination that he had to really succeed and to really just do, you know, what it is that he wanted to do, that really is impactful for me, a black male who, you know, my dad, like I said, he was a blue collar worker, so you know, broke his back literally providing for my family. Just to be able to, you know, share a network with a man like that that's kind of dedicated and driven to follow his goals and his dreams, it's, you know, awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
I met Marquelle through Instagram, and I used to see his pictures and be like, wow, this guy's really dapper, like he's so fly, like who is this guy? Like a celebrity, 300 comments, I forget how many followers he had at the time, he probably doubled it.
Yeah, you do have a lot of fun.
Yeah, but I mean, moving on from that, I was admired by his charisma, and he was like heavily versed in fashion, traveling the world. And at the time, I think I was like working at like just a regular like Soho store. So when it was time for me to finally jump ship to a luxuriously branded retailer, I reached out to him. I was just like, you know, Marquelle, you know, I see that you're, you know, doing your thing. You're in, I believe you're in Paris. I can't remember.
South of France.
South of France. And I just wanted some feedback on how to just work on my resume, and, you know, and get me like some really good insight. And it was moments like that that really defined like what I think of Marquelle. He's a leader. He's very charismatic, and it's funny how he mentioned my passion for the for TNS, and I feel like my passion, like my flame wouldn't burn as bright without like getting like energy from his passion. And you know, energy is only transferred; it's never, you know, created. And I mean, Marquelle, I gotta say, man, I don't know, like I really have to say that I truly do like respect like your passion for like the upliftment of African Americans, and why wouldn't I want to be like so into TNS, you know? So I mean, much respect, bro. Much respect.
Choked up on this bitch. I mean, it's great to see the camaraderie amongst brothers, because oftentimes, and I think me and you know, Faison, who's behind the camera, had a conversation about that, because Faison just had a birthday too, and he asked me for some advice, being that I'm so fucking old.
Happy birthday, man.
But he asked me some advice, you know, like what advice do I wish I had when I turned 24. And I told him a couple things, but in the last piece I said, I was like, always beware of the people that you call comrades, but they view you as their competition.
Yeah,
you know,
that's good.
But it's good to see that there's no competition here. that there's nothing but a strong camaraderie for being positive brothers, and that's something that that should be the new stereotype, and is going to be the new stereotype, and is new stereotype today, and will be tomorrow. With the new stereotype, of course, there's the fashion component, right? There's the fashion component, and actually, Marquelle, you can probably answer this too. There's a lot of brothers out there that don't like to get dressed up, right? And not necessarily because they just don't like to get dressed up, but it's because of body type. Because believe it or not, there is body type issues within black men.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. So how does the new stereotype? What would you say to the guy who wants to adopt this new stereotype, but doesn't have the body type?
I would say that the new stereotype in so many ways is kind of what you'd like to bring to the forefront. Because, as I mentioned earlier, there are so many different dynamics to this project. And everyone comes from a diverse background, and that means something different from them. A few of the guys are from Africa, and so that means something to them. I'm American, that means something to me. Kamoy is from the Virgin Islands, so that means something to him. And so with that, with the type of foods and the different types of cultures associated with that, reflects how you dress, and in some cases what your body type is, because if you're from the South like me, you've eaten biscuits your whole life, that can shape kind of some of the things that you can wear, or kind of what you cannot wear. But I think that just from a style perspective, it's important to understand body fit, and then from there clean it up. And I think fit is so important. A lot of people kind of miss that element, because you can wear an H&M suit, or you can wear a suit from JCPenney or from another department store that's maybe only $100, but have it tailored in a way where it fits to your body type, and it creates this clean look. And style, in so many ways, is about contrast and fit. So creating clean lines, contrast, and fit. So if you kind of understand what your body fit is, dress to that, and then tailor it to that body fit, you create your own stereotype, you create your own look. So I don't think anyone is off limits in this regard, because it's just a matter of tailoring it to your body type and cleaning it from there.
Interesting. You guys agree with that?
I totally agree with that. I mean, it starts with you. I mean, however you do dress, however you do carry yourself, however you want to be perceived, it starts with you. So, yeah, Marquelle's 150% correct.
There's so many eyes on the project, right? So many eyes. Men, women, boys, girls, right? Little boys, little girls. And they're gifted. And they're probably looking at this movement and saying, I want to do something like that when I get older. Or, I want to do that right now.
Right, for sure.
Aaron, what do you say to that little guy, that little girl that's looking up to this movement and wants to start their own? Because you guys are obviously role models. You may not have wanted to be role models, but you are now. And it's a great thing. What do you say to that next gifted person that wants to create a movement like the new stereotype?
What I will say is, and I had to learn this for myself, and so this kind of still goes for me as well, because I'm still, trying to figure out what my path is. I know what direction I want to go to. So basically, there's no great Wizard of Oz giving out hearts, giving out brains, giving out courage. So you really have to follow your heart, and you have to have the courage enough to believe in yourself that, you are able to do it. You're able to do whatever it is that you put your heart, your mind to. So, whatever path, whatever the journey is that you want to take, educate yourself, network and link up with someone who, has done it or is doing what you would like to do, and figure out their journey. Your journey is not going to be their journey, so don't ever compare your road to someone else's road, because that will discourage you. But definitely, you just have to persevere. And I'm gonna paraphrase a quote from the CEO. I can't think of his name, but the CEO of Virgin.
Richard Prince.
Yes. He says basically, you don't learn how to walk by following the rules. You learn how to walk by falling and getting back up. So definitely get a mentor or something, network, and find someone who's doing what you would like to do. But at the end of the day, you have to take your own path to get to where you'd like to go.
What is the legacy would you like the new stereotype to be known for?
Okay, if I were to sum up kind of what this project was in one sentence, it would be to celebrate the many layers within Black life. And the legacy that I would like for us to leave behind, the legacy that I would like for us to create, and I think that we are creating, is that it's okay if maybe you're in a suit and you are listening to Drake on the subway, or if it shuffles and then it turns to rock and roll, or it shuffles, it turns to EDM or any other type of music. I want people to feel comfortable knowing that you don't have to be defined by 12 by 12 by 12, but simply whatever you want that stereotype to be, whatever you want that life to be it, and to embrace that, and to not feel like you have to conform to anybody's rules or anyone's parameters or what it means to be you and associated with your ethnicity or with your culture.
Great answer. So, Marquelle, what will you create?
I will create a prototype that allows people to understand that when it's time for you to die, no one in that casket can lay there for you. So now that it's your opportunity to live, don't let anyone do that for you either. That's the prototype that I will create.
Aaron, what will you create?
I would like to create this ideal that you do not have to succumb to whatever society says that you have to be, or whatever limits that society puts on you. The only person or the only things that can hinder you are yourself. So, you just have to honestly just believe in yourself. And, the first step is really, once you take that first step, you're overcoming that inertia to just get the momentum going. And so, just take the limits off yourself. Don't let anyone put any type of limitations on you.
Shola?
I'm gonna use my gifts to create a platform, to create memoirs of the world as I see it. Okay, and I just want to show the world how easy it is to self-reflect on your life, and to use that as a reference to keep pushing forward. Every time your hardships you get in the way of whatever progress that you would like to make in life, you just always have to take that moment to look back and see, like, wow, this is hard, but look how far I've overcome. And, I feel like looking back like that, you can look forward and think, wow, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. It's hard, but it's not that hard.
Incredible. Well, gentlemen, I'd like to thank you much for being a part of K.R.E.A.T.E TV today.
Thank you.
Everyone out there, look out for the new Stereotype everywhere.
Yeah.
Twitter, Facebook, your grandma's house, your grandma's porch.
Right.
We are going to find that camo picture.
Right.
But gentlemen, I cannot thank you enough. I thank you. My team thanks you. I think the world thanks you for creating this new stereotype for black men and black women and just young kids of color everywhere, Latino, Asian, whatever. We need a new stereotype, and I think this is like a rocket ship, not even like a soft launch. This is a rocket ship into the new stereotype, and I'm so happy to have you guys on the show. Once again, thank you so much. Thank you guys for watching K.R.E.A.T.E TV. We'll see you on the next one. You already know who I am, Kenny Thacker. Peace.